Good morning. Welcome to our Rose Whispers Sew Along. We have a great quilt all ready for you to show you how to make. It's beautiful. There's 12 blocks in it. They're 12-inch finished size blocks. They're all made out of that beautiful fabric called Rose Whispers. Roses everywhere. It looks very spring-like. Rose gardens right here. Oh, the beautiful pinks. There's turquoise. There's a rose fence right here. There's rose bushes. It's all roses. Fantastic. And then it's set together simply with lattice and cornerstones. The quilting in it is absolutely terrific. Amy Potter did it, and you can see the stencil is repeated in the center of each block, and then the lattice has these beautiful waves with circles in them. They join right in the cornerstones. A little rose fussy cut right there. Very, very pretty. Finished off with a stripe binding around the outside edge. Well, if you don't want to do Rose Whispers, I can't imagine, how about picking solid colors? These are all made from fat quarters, so you can put it together. And now look at the quilting on this one. You can definitely see it. Here's the one stencil in the center of the block, and then the lattice has crisscross stitching lines throughout. Beautiful. Well, I want to take a look, show you the whole line. You can just, oh, so good to touch. The fabric is wonderful. This is the whole line of Rose Whispers fabric. You can get it in fat quarters. You can get it in strips, in squares, two sizes of squares. And I'll show you right here. This is all you need. You need to have 14 1/4 yard pieces or 10 1/8 yard pieces. How about stripe for the binding and piece of backing, and you're set. This time we're going to do more geese, but we're having light geese in the middle. Oh, it gets tricky all the time. So right here, this is the spinning star, and you can see the pinwheel just spinning right in the middle. Geese around the outside edge, and then the four corners. Just a very pretty block, but there's lots to learn, so let me show you. So this is the block itself, and here are the pieces that we need to put it together. The corners are the half square triangles. They come from strips 4 by 8, just like we've done before. Put them right sides together, so if you just kind of fold back that corner, you can see what that piece is going to look like. Draw the line at 4 diagonal lines, and then just sew 1/4 inch from both sides. Cut it up. You have 4 corners right there, and then the pinwheel. You know the pinwheel is one of my favorite blocks. You could just do this all the time, but it's also the 4 by 8. Exactly the same thing, the 2 pieces placed right sides together, the diagonal lines. But our favorite thing, making this lay nice and flat in the middle, just take your finger and press it. It's very flat, from the amazing swirling trick. And it's just right around. You make that little pinwheel in the middle. But I want to show you more about the geese, because they come from 2 different size squares. And because we're having the light geese, the small square on top is the background color. And then the part right here is the dark color. You always have 2 squares to make 4 geese. And just in case you're sitting at home, you can't find your papers, all those directions we've written for you, can't find them. So you can think the process through on your own. This time, the geese, the finished size geese, is 3 by 6. 3 by 6. So you have to do a little bit of math. You take the large finished size, which is 6 at this time. So look at the math. This is how it goes. You start at 6 inches and you add 1 1/2. 1 1/2 makes 7 1/2. Yeah, you know. But anyhow, that's the size of your small square. right in the middle, 7.5. Okay, you got a large square, so add another 1.5 to it. The next number is 9, and that's the size of the outside square. And I use this method a lot, especially when I don't have all my directions handy and can't get hold of them. But you just put the small square centered on the large square, just guesstimate. Draw a diagonal line and then 1/4 inch on both sides. And so whenever you take those two pieces, let me just start with this one because I want to remind you how to do it. You'll be able to do this in your sleep. And actually, people say this is their favorite size of making geese. So let's just cut it in half, and then it doesn't matter what color, you turn them over and you press your seam towards the large triangle. So it's like that, and then one more, take this one, open the large triangle, press the seams toward the large triangle, and of course you can use your iron. But this is the trickiest part. You put them back right sides together, and immediately people want to line up the seam and match it up. Nope. You've got to match the outside edges so that whenever you look, you have this space right in the middle. Okay, so then you just draw another diagonal line, so 1/4 inch on both sides, and then just cut it in half. And I always look at this whenever I'm doing it, and I go, okay, I have some fun. Just look at it. Here's the geese tails, little honking. That's good. Okay, so now you want to take this and make it so you can press the seams going in 2 directions. So just cut right there. Make a 1/4 inch cut. And you're just going to do that on both of them. And this is amazing how this works. Just fold it in half, match up your tails right there. Take your sharp scissors, cut. And then when you turn it over, you can just start pressing seams away from the geese. Okay, our background geese this time. 1, and you see this side has already been pressed. You only have one side that you really need to press. And then all you got to do is just lay this ruler right in the seams. And I actually am using a smaller mat so I can turn this around. You just take it and you trim right down through the middle so you have that 1/4 inch seam. Get this lined up right here. You're going to cut one side. You have 2 sides left, so if you have it on a small mat like this without picking it up and moving it, then you can just turn around, take and trim the last 2 sides. Perfect. That is absolutely perfect. And then you just want to go through. You will make 4 just like this one, so that whenever you sew it together, you actually sew vertical seams here and here, 2 vertical seams, and then when you go across the other way, then you're just going to press the seams away from the geese. First go towards the pinwheel, second towards the geese. And that's how you get that nice pinwheel right in the middle, so you can just fly right into the spinning star. So are you ready for more Rose Whispers Sew Along? Well, I'm ready to show you along. But this is the block for today. It's called Square in a Square. Very easy. So even if you've never made a quilt before, I think you can do this one. This is what the block looks like. There are 2 square in a square blocks and then just 2 solid squares. These are the measurements that you need. This is the square right in the middle. It's 4 3/4 inches. You need 2 of them. These are the triangles and the sky blue that surround. You need 4 4.5-inch squares. And then the setting squares, 2 of them are 6.5 inches square. So get some tools. We'll be using the double square up ruler like this one and a 6.5-inch fussy cut ruler. So get your tools ready and I'll show you where to start. Right now we're going to take our blue skies and just cut them in half on one diagonal. You have 4 of them, so you can go ahead and layer cut. Use the straight side along one edge, line it up at the corner, zip across, and you've got it all done. Okay, now you're going to take the center, 4 3/4 inch squares, and flip the triangles right sides together. Now make sure that you line up the edges and just have equal corners on both sides, equal points on both sides. And then zoop, just sew along. I'm using my magical red thread, and like that, ta-da! There they are. They're equally sticking out. Set the seam, open, and press. Press towards the triangle. And then take the ruler again. And we can line it up with the sides along here. Trim off the little tips on both sides. And I don't think these are big enough to save. Let's just get rid of these. And then once you have 2 sides on, you're going to just take more triangles. So now you need to have 2 more triangles and place them right sides together, and you have like just enough for 1/4 inch on both sides. Put them on there, line them up, sew along, and there we go. Okay, hanging out in the ends on all 4 places, open them, press the seams toward the triangle. Okay, now is the time for the squaring up. So I'm just going to lift this and move this over, pull in my tool that's going to just swing around. The 6.5 inch square up ruler, and you can see that it has these lines right along here on all 4 corners, plus a 1/4 inch seam around the outside edge. So when you place it on your ruler, get all those corners lined up like this. Perfect. Hold it down tight. Trim on 2 sides. Swing your mat around and do the last 2 sides. Perfect. Okay, so even if you start out in the beginning and it's looking a little crooked, you make it completely straight in the end. So now let's just take these pieces. We have 2 of them all completely squared up. Now we need the 2 setting squares, the 6.5 inch. And you're going to sew straight down along here. So flip them right sides together and just sew continuously from one to the next. And then don't clip this stitch in the center. Open them up, and now you're going to do the opposite way. And I'm just going to grab this one and show you what it looks like when you're going the opposite way. The directions say to match it in the middle and push the top seam up, and this is the underneath seam, and that's so you reduce the bulk. If you lock these seams, then you don't have all that bulk in there. And then take your stiletto and unsew these stitches right along here. There's stitches there. There are about 3 of them. Just zip them out on the top side and then turn it over on the bottom side. Unsew the stitches, and that's so that we could swirl this. Open it up into a 4 patch in the middle, and then you just swirl your seams right around there. That way, whenever you're stitching through it, there's no bulk, you won't break your needle, and you can put your block in the quilt. So, are you ready for more Rose Whispers? Sew along! It must be getting towards lunchtime because I'm starving. Just looking at this block and the name of it's making me hungry. It's pork and beans. Pork and beans, at least it's kind of the color of red beans, huh? But what's really fun about this block is that it has the beautiful red, but look at the stripe. And the amazing thing is this stripe, every stripe is going down, 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 down. Can you imagine that? It's not that easy, but you can do it. And then it just all swirls around the center, nice and flat, beautiful. So let's just take a look at this. The fun thing is it's easy to cut. They're all 7.5-inch squares. You need to have 2 7.5-inch squares for the background, and then you need to have just 1 7.5-inch of the stripe, and then the beautiful rose color, the same, 7.5. So draw a diagonal line right down through the middle, and then we're going to just go ahead, turn our ruler, and cut this in the opposite direction. This is actually 4 pieces we're going to make. So do a diagonal one way, keep it held together. This is the tricky part, keeping it all together. And then the second way. So we could do it the opposite way, it doesn't really matter, but keep it together and then turn it the opposite way and cut straight down. Okay, 4 parts for each, and let's move this out of the way. Now, watch. There are 4 parts, so I'm just going to take the stripe right here and turn it over. So it's already looking different, huh? Okay, now the same thing on this side. I'm going to turn this beautiful rose over. So the reason that we did this is because we want to take these 2, press them to the background, and these 2, press them towards the dark. So they're right on the top. So that's how you really can work at it. So this is the background. Open it up and just press toward the background. And repeat with this one. Background. Okay, this is, so we have our magical locking seams in the end. And that's what's the great part. Okay, so now why don't we just take these 2. They've got the background on top. Open, press toward the background. Okay, and I will tell you what, you've got these all laid out right now. Let's just take these, because we're going to flip them together like that, and just flip them right sides together. And you see whenever you flip them, it's that magical thing. They're going in opposite directions, and so they will lock together very easily. So when you open them up, these are all lined up. We like that, don't we? Okay, so let's just set this group aside. 2 of them. We're already halfway done. Okay, so now these are the darks on the top. So let's just take these and press the seam towards the dark. How easy is that? Oh, and I wonder if our stripes are still working out. That's going to be amazing. Okay, towards the dark, like so. We've still got, these are on the top. That's the way I always press. I like to have whichever direction I'm pressing my seam on the top. So it works out really well. Just press it that way. Look at this. So now we're just going to take these 2. They are going to go together. So when you flip them right sides together, of course they're going opposite directions, and they're just gonna lock together perfectly. Whoa, we got all 4 done now. And now comes the magic. Roll the drums. So you just assembly line sew these 4 pieces, one after the other, assembly line sew, and then when you open them up, you can just swirl those seams, and they're going to go in opposite directions. Whoop! Just kind of get violent there with that center. Pop it open and just swirl the seams right around the center. And then they're really laying flat. So we've got all 4 up here, all swirled. Now let's take a look. If we take this one, the seams, the stripes going down. Take the next one, the stripes going down, still down. Oh my gosh, this is looking good. Amazing. And look at that. All going down. Now, is that a miracle? Ta-da! It works good. So then you've got all 4 of those pieces. You just flip them right sides together. So the vertical seams, the horizontal seams, and then see how beautiful it looks on the back side. Every single one is swirled. You got your cute little 4 patches, little swirling right in the middle, perfectly flat. Truly amazing. Now that all of your 12 blocks are sewn, it's time to sew them together into one sampler. But before you do that, I'd just love it if you'd take individual blocks and play with them and see what you can do. Make all these different designs. For instance, this is the pattern called Schoolgirl. You know how to do it, believe it or not. It's just have square triangles and squares, easy to do, but make multiple blocks. Like this one is 12 Schoolgirl blocks. It's rows 3 across and 4 down to make 12 blocks. And this is the pattern that you can create. Just lots of fun. Or if you get aggressive, you could make 16 blocks. Sew them 4 by 4, 16. And look at the cool different design that you can create. And you know that this block is easy and that you could do it. So that's Schoolgirl. That's your challenge. But let's move these aside, and how about we're going to come up with another easy block. And this time we've got our half star. And when you put the half star together, these blocks, when you have 4 of these in one circle in one center, then you really start to see those flowers. And here it is, 12 blocks. The big one right in the center repeats, and then you see like this one makes a different pattern when you put the geese together. These are 12 blocks, but this is 16. It's going to be 4 by 4. It's amazing what you can do just by adding and moving them around and seeing different ones. Okay, my favorite one, Jacob's ladder. Because you can see this is going to make a ladder going right down through there. Let me move this. And here you see just 12 blocks. And it's completely different putting 12 of these together. But when you put 16 together, you create a very traditional looking star in the center, the chain, the ladder going down through across into probably my favorite pattern of all. So play with them. Have fun. Why not? Use your imagination. So this is your big day. You get to lay out all of your blocks and see how you like them, mix them up and lay them out again. So I've been analyzing this one, and there's just some things that I see. First of all, you want to make sure that you don't put the same colors beside each other. And actually, this diagonal row of the same colors works really well. And then you don't want to have like the same colors next to each other, like these two. And this in the corners work out really well. So I laid out my blocks, and Teresa's going to help put us all together, my faithful assistant here. So we're lucky enough to have a great design wall. This is headliner fabric. This is what's the top of upholstery in the cars. It's a foam core underneath, and so works really well. And Teresa laid out our lattice. You measure your block and cut your lattice the same size. So mine are 12.5, but yours might be 12.25. You check your blocks and pick out the average measurement if you have to square any up or just kind of sliver trim. But it's the lattice, 2.5-inch lattice and 2.5-inch cornerstones laid out throughout. So Teresa's already is just like finishing a puzzle right here. So I liked the turquoise row. Those are
the turquoise?
Yes. Okay, put that down in that diagonal row.
I did this for a rhyme.
Okay, and this is a row of 3. So I'm just going to take, oh, it has a top. If you have a fussy cut, yep, you want to have your top of your flower. That's perfect. That's beautiful. Okay, so this one, good old Jacob's ladder. These are so pretty. This is kind of our rose row, purple roses. And you know what I do really like is a mix of the flowers coming in. The Rose Whisper mixed up just to give it a nice, beautiful piece. And that one is coming next down in the corner. Oh, pork and beans. Okay, and now we actually have a couple of the greens, but this has the beautiful color mixed in. What's interesting about this one is this block is so soft in comparison. It kind of breaks up the harshness of this one. Now, how about those two opposite corners? It doesn't really happen this fast, does it, Teresa?
Nope.
I often lay out my blocks, and that's going to go in that corner. And I do it and just turn off the light and come back in the morning and look all over again. Usually mix it up about 3 more times. And one thing is looking the values, because whenever you have a really dark value, you don't want to have it all in one clump. It's really cool. Okay, so look at this. That's going to be the last one up at the top. So to me, this is interesting. These two are opposite each other. I'll let you finish. That's that old rotator cuff there. Okay, so they're all in place. Step back. What do you think, Teresa?
Looks great, ready to sew.
Okay, all right. So when I sew my tops together, I do vertical rows. If you would prefer, you can always go straight across in the rows. But basically, I love to just flip the second row right sides together to the first row. I'm going to mix this up. But I have my design wall right next to my sewing machine, so I stack from top to bottom, and then this is what I'm sewing, this long vertical row. And if you can keep them all in order, that's fine. Sometimes you have to take a snapshot, take a picture in your camera so you don't mix them up. But the point is, you want to always push your seams toward the lattice. Press your seams toward the lattice, and that way every single piece will lock together. But so all vertical rows, and they're all still chained together. There's no repinning. And then when you go back across the other way, you can just line everything up with those connecting threads. And then again, press your seams. You can just press them towards the lattice and it'll lay great. There are no borders in this quilt, but you're welcome to go ahead, add your own borders. And if I were you, I would send my quilts out to the long arm quilter and just ask them to quilt it. But you know, lately I've even been doing my own quilting. So you've got your quilting to do, and your binding, and your sewing is done. Thank you. You know, I had a really good time working on all of these blocks. It was special to me to be with you. I enjoyed every one of them, so I hope you have as much fun as I did. Thank you.